Welcome back to English Unfiltered, the podcast where we explore real conversations in English. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. And today we're diving into a very common trap that, well, almost every English learner falls into, which is thinking way too much.
Oh, man. Yeah. Today we are talking about that agonizing 10-second silence. You know the one? You're in a meeting, you have like the perfect joke or insight in your head.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Right. But by the time you actually translate the grammar, everyone is already talking about something else.
Yeah, they've completely moved on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are left just sitting there completely paralyzed while the conversation just, moves forward without you.
It is the classic freeze response. I mean, to everyone else in the room, it might just look like you're being quiet or being a polite, attentive listener.
Right. They think you're just nodding along.
Exactly. But inside your head, it is absolute chaos. It's this frantic, high-stress environment where you are basically working overtime to produce a single sentence.
It really is. It feels like a massive, over-regulated factory in there. You go into this mode where you are running through an exhausting internal checklist.
Oh, the checklist.
Yeah. First, you have this complex, nuanced adult thought that you want to share. So you start painstakingly building the sentence from scratch.
Word by word.
Exactly, word by word. You lay down the foundation, you pick the subject, and you start scanning your brain for the exact right verb to match it.
And then the quality control process begins, right?
Oh, totally.
You start double checking the grammar. You ask yourself, do I need the past continuous or the past perfect here?
The classic struggle.
Right. You debate whether you should use the preposition in or on. And while you are doing all of that structural work, you are also criticizing your own vocabulary.
Yeah, you start thinking, well, the word good is way too simple.
Exactly. I want to sound professional. Let me search my mental archives for that advanced business idiom I studied last week.
I always think of it like a mental assembly line. Imagine you are working in this factory, and your sole objective is to build a flawless product, a perfectly constructed, grammatically spotless English sentence.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. You are polishing the final word, making sure it shines. But here is the catastrophic problem. The conveyor belt of the actual conversation is moving way too fast.
Yeah, because the conversation does not pause while you are running your internal quality control checks.
Exactly. People don't wait.
No, they're nodding, they're reacting, shifting topics.
And it's maddening because you know the rules, you know the vocabulary, you can't execute them in time.
Right.
You finally look up, ready to present your masterpiece, and the topic has changed. You completely missed the boat. That is actually a great phrase we use for this. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Missed the boat.
Yeah, when you lose your opportunity to participate because you waited too long, you missed the boat. The moment passed.
The moment passed. And now, if you finally deliver that perfectly constructed sentence, it is going to sound bizarre. Oh, so weird. Because they're talking about lunch now.
Exactly. The group is already talking about weekend plans instead of the previous project. So you swallow your words. You choose silence.
Yeah.
And the irony here is just tragic, honestly. Your intense desire to sound perfect is the exact thing keeping you from participating at all.
Wow, yeah. That's deep.
You are so terrified of making a small grammar mistake that you end up making the ultimate communication mistake, which is not communicating.
Let me ask you something, though. Is there, a physical limit to how fast we can pull from our vocabulary? Because it feels like my brain literally runs out of processing power when this happens.
There absolutely is a physical limit, and it comes down to how working memory functions in the human brain.
Okay, working memory.
Yeah, think of working memory like the RAM in a computer.
Yeah.
It is the mental workspace where you hold information actively while you were using it.
Like keeping tabs open in a browser. Exactly like that. And human working memory is surprisingly limited. We can generally only hold on to 3 or 4 pieces of new or unautomated information at any given time.
Only 3 or 4.
That's it.
So when you are trying to remember a vocabulary word, apply a complex grammar rule you haven't mastered yet. Monitor the listener's facial expression and figure out the social timing of when to jump in.
You crash the system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you are demanding too much RAM. When a language learner tries to juggle all those unautomated tasks simultaneously, cognitive overload kicks in. The brain literally bottlenecks.
That makes so much sense.
Right. That freeze you feel isn't a lack of intelligence, and it's not a lack of vocabulary. It is a physiological traffic jam in your working memory.
You know, that is incredibly validating to hear. It takes so much of the guilt away, I think.
It really should.
Because we blame ourselves for not being smart enough or fast enough, but our brains are just doing what they are physically constrained to do. But this leads to a really obvious question for me. If the brain's RAM is so limited, how on earth do native speakers talk so fast without crashing their own systems?
Okay. That brings us to what I like to call the native speaker illusion.
The native speaker illusion. I like the sound of that.
It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how fluency actually works in the wild.
Okay, so the illusion is the belief that native speakers operate the exact same way a learner does, just with a faster processor, right?
That's what people think, yeah.
People assume we're running that same mental assembly line, picking the subject, selecting the verb, checking the prepositions, but doing it at lightning speed before we open our mouths.
Right, like we have some kind of invisible teleprompter scrolling perfect grammar behind our eyes.
Exactly.
Let's shatter that myth right now. Native speakers absolutely do not prepare perfect sentences before they speak.
Never.
If you believe they do, you are holding yourself to a standard that does not even exist in reality.
I mean, if you listen to how you and I are talking right now, it is incredibly messy. Real spontaneous speech is full of false starts.
Completely.
We start a sentence having absolutely no idea how we are going to finish it.
We repeat words constantly. We use fillers, words like, and like...
Guilty as charged.
We all are. We will get halfway through a thought, realize it isn't going where we want, completely abandon the sentence, and just, pivot in a new direction.
Yeah, there is an actual formula to how native speech happens. And it is definitely not prepare, perfect, and deliver. The actual mechanism is more like speak, adjust, and continue.
I love that. Speak, adjust, and continue.
Right.
You throw out an initial messy thought just to get the ball rolling. You hear how it sounds out loud. You tweak it in real time by adding a clarifying clause or self-correcting a word, and you just keep the momentum moving forward.
A native speaker doesn't plan a sentence like, yesterday I drove my car to the grocery store, but unfortunately it was closed.
No, nobody talks like that.
Right. They usually start with whatever pops into their head first.
Yeah.
They might say, I drove to the store yesterday, but, it was closed.
Exactly. They didn't plan the whole architecture. They just started building the bridge while they were already walking on it.
That's a great way to put it.
And another massive advantage native speakers have is that they don't build sentences word by word anyway. They use chunks.
Chunks.
Yeah, lexical chunks. They're basically prefabricated phrases that are stored in the brain as a single unit rather than individual words.
Oh, like, by the way, or on the other hand.
Precisely, or I was thinking that.
Okay, so they aren't using up working memory to assemble those words one by one. The phrase just gets pulled from the brain as one single block.
Exactly, which frees up all that RAM to focus on the actual idea they want to communicate.
That is huge.
It is. That messy, chunk-driven, real-time process is exactly why native speech feels natural and dynamic. It has a rhythm, It is responsive to the environment. When a learner tries to deliver a pre-packaged, perfectly memorized sentence that they spent 10 seconds building, it often sounds robotic.
Because it is.
Yeah. It sounds like they are reading from a script because internally they essentially are.
Wait, I have to stop you there, though.
Okay, go for it.
Grammar rules exist for a reason, right? I mean, vocabulary takes active effort to learn and apply correctly. We can't just tell people to turn off their brains and blurt out whatever nonsense comes to mind.
That's a very fair point.
Thinking has to be important at some point in this process.
And it is. That is a crucial distinction to make. Thinking is incredibly important, but the key is when you are doing it.
Okay.
It comes down to the difference between study mode and performance mode.
Got it. So study mode is when you are sitting at your desk, reading an English textbook, doing grammar exercises, or, watching a tutorial video.
Yes. When you are in study mode, you should absolutely be highly analytical. You are building explicit memory. You should think deeply about sentence structure, analyze why a specific verb tense changes the meaning of a sentence, and deliberately try to memorize new vocabulary lists.
So that is the proper time and place to run your mental assembly line.
Exactly. Run it all day long. But the wild is different.
Completely different.
When you step away from the desk and you are actually standing in front of another human being engaged in a conversation, you have to shift from study mode to performance mode.
Which means?
Performance relies on implicit memory, the things you can do automatically. And in performance mode, trying to actively access explicit rules becomes a massive liability.
It's like riding a bicycle.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, when you are first learning, you are thinking about the physics of it. You're thinking, okay, I need to push down my left foot, balance my weight to the right, keep my hands steady.
Right, very analytical.
But once you're actually riding down the street in traffic, if you suddenly start overanalyzing the physics of the pedals, you are going to crash into a parked car.
That is exactly what happens in conversation.
You just crash.
Yeah, you are trying to be a meticulous student and a spontaneous conversationalist at the exact same time. The human brain cannot juggle both of those tasks seamlessly in a second language.
Okay, so we have diagnosed the core issue. The hyper-analytical approach overloads our working memory.
Check.
We've shattered the native speaker myth. We know fluency is messy, chunk-driven, and relies on the speak, adjust, continues method.
Check.
And we know that trying to study while performing crashes the bicycle. The big question now is, how do we actually fix this? How does a learner trade that crippling perfectionism for natural flow?
The solution sounds remarkably straightforward, but I warn you, it can feel psychologically terrifying at first.
Okay, Amy.
The antidote to cognitive overload is to ruthlessly focus on saying something simple instead of trying to say everything perfectly.
Focus on simple.
Lower the bar.
I love that. Lower the bar.
Yeah. Lower the cognitive load. When you are in a conversation and you feel that freeze coming on, when you catch your brain starting to build a massive, complex paragraph, you need to hit the emergency stop button on the assembly line.
To shut it down.
Shut it down. Drop the complex blueprint and just grab the simplest possible tool you have available.
Let's contextualize this because I think ego plays a huge part here.
Oh, absolutely. Ego is huge.
Because adult language learners are smart, capable people. They have complex, sophisticated adult thoughts. It is deeply frustrating to have a nuanced opinion about politics or art, but only possess the vocabulary of a beginner to express it.
The ego is the biggest enemy of fluency. Adult learners hate sounding basic or childish.
Yeah, nobody wants to sound like a toddler.
Right. So they try to force their limited English to match their complex native language thoughts, which leads straight back to the freeze.
Let's do a role play to really show what this clash looks like in real time.
Okay, let's do it. Set the scene.
All right, let's say we are at a dinner party and someone asks you what you thought of a highly acclaimed movie we both just watched.
Okay, I'm the overthinking learner.
Right. So, wanting to sound intelligent and precise, you might try to formulate something like, although the cinematography was visually striking, I found the character development to be somewhat lacking in emotional depth.
Wow.
Right. Now, that is a beautiful textbook perfect sentence. But trying to translate and build that in real time from your native language takes 10 seconds of awkward, blank staring.
Yeah, and by the time you finally articulate that beautiful sentence, the other person has already checked their phone, taken a drink, and moved on to asking about the appetizer.
Exactly. You missed the boat entirely. So what is the alternative that sacrifices ego for connection?
Just jump in immediately with something direct and simple. Just say, I think it's good, but the characters were a bit boring.
I think it's good, but the characters were a bit boring.
That is a perfect example.
It's so much easier.
It is not poetry. It won't win an award for advanced vocabulary, but it achieves the primary goal of language. It transfers your opinion to my brain instantly. It gets you into the conversation immediately.
And once you are speaking, once you have broken that terrifying silence with simple words, the pressure drops. You are on the dance floor.
Exactly. Now you can use that speak, adjust, continue formula.
Right. You started with the characters were boring. And as the conversation naturally unfolds, your brain has time to pull up more specific words. You can add details as you go rather than front-loading all the work.
It's like playing catch. If I throw you a baseball, the game dies immediately if you catch the ball. Stop everything, pull out a magnifying glass, examine the red stitching on the leather, measure the wind resistance, calculate the exact trajectory of your arm.
Oh my God.
And then finally throw it back 3 minutes later.
This game would be over. I would be incredibly bored. I would drop my glove and I would walk away to find someone else to play with.
Right. If I throw you the ball, you just toss it back. It doesn't have to be a perfect major league pitch.
Right. It can be a slightly wobbly, messy throw. The only thing that matters is that the ball goes back and forth.
So in a conversation, the ball is the topic.
Exactly. When someone throws a question or a thought to you, it is infinitely better to toss it back instantly with a simple, slightly messy sentence than to stand there analyzing your grammar while the other person waits in silence.
A quick toss keeps the game alive. A simple sentence keeps the conversation alive. We prioritize the connection over the accuracy.
And here is the hidden benefit. Every single time you successfully toss that ball back, every time you choose to speak simply instead of freezing, you are building profound confidence.
Because you're proving you can do it.
You are proving to your nervous system that you do not need to be flawless to be understood. You start trusting your implicit memory instead of relying on that heavy, slow, internal checklist.
You are training yourself to survive in the wild.
Exactly.
Bringing this all together, it completely reframes the objective of language learning. The ultimate goal of speaking English, or any language, is not perfection.
No, it's really not. Perfection is a sterile, unnatural state that doesn't even exist among native speakers.
Perfection is a myth that keeps learners trapped inside their own heads.
The true goal, the ultimate prize we should all be chasing, is flow. It is that incredible feeling of connection, of ideas moving back and forth without friction, where you're so engaged in the topic that you actually forget you are speaking a foreign language.
That's the dream.
And flow only happens when you finally grant yourself permission to drop the ego, stop overthinking, and embrace the messiness of real communication.
It requires a leap of faith. You have to trust that your simple words are enough to carry your complex thoughts.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought to really mull over the next time you find yourself freezing up, frantically searching for the right verb tense.
Think about this. If making mistakes and jumping into the messiness is actually the fastest way to become fluent, are the people who claim to be bad at languages actually just the ones who are too afraid to sound foolish?
Oh.
What if your fear of looking silly is the only thing standing between you and fluency?
That is a profound shift in perspective. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just throw the ball back, even if it's a little wobbly. Thank you all for tuning in and letting us be part of your language journey today.
We'll be right here waiting to toss the ball back and forth with you next time.
We'll see you on our next deep dive.